Good morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us. I wanted to start actually on the situation in Gaza. Do you support the government's strengthening of their rhetoric towards the Israeli leadership over the course of the last week or so? And would you like to see them go further?
Some things we support. I mean, there's no doubt we support Israel's right to defend itself, as we've said many times. But also, we think that Israel needs to be very careful. They need to minimise the loss of life and make sure aid gets through to people who need it, to civilians. Nobody wants to see pictures on their TV screens, as we've seen this morning on your news channel. You know, whether it be settlers in the West Bank. Pushing off people who have a legal right to live in the West Bank, or it be the difficulties people getting aid in Gaza, and those terrible scenes of people of loss of life in Gaza. It's just unacceptable. So we think Israel should do more, as we've said many, many times. But nevertheless, the question you always got to answer is, what is the solution to getting those 59 hostages out of Gaza, out of captivity? It's simply wrong, and therefore action will continue, I'm sure, understandably, from Israel until those hostages are released.
I guess specifically in light of a couple of letters this week, one from senior legal professionals, another today from various celebrities, that suggest, because, for example, that we export weapons and have a huge number of export licenses for weapons to the Israeli government, that there is some form of complicity from the UK towards the situation in Gaza. When the government pushes back on that accusation, do you support them?
I do support them. I mean, we don't supply military aid to Israel, for starters. We do supply some equipment to maintain aircraft, for example. But where would Israel be if it couldn't defend itself? It's in an existential battle against proxies in the region, Hezbollah and Hamas, against Iran, who doesn't recognise its right to exist. Of course, Israel can defend itself. And if its allies don't support that right, then it will no longer exist.
Interesting to get that perspective from you this morning. I wanted to move on and talk about the situation in your sector, the Shadow Secretary of State of Levelling Up, Housing and Communities. You want to talk about social housing today?
Well, social housing is very important. You know, we deliver an average of over 50,000 homes per year across the country whilst in office. And we're yet to see Labour's plans in terms of what they're going to do on that. The broad number they've announced at 1.5 million homes over this Parliament is ambitious. It's probably undeliverable. But we've not seen the detail yet in how many affordable and social homes will be delivered, which are hugely important. Affordable homes to purchase and affordable homes to rent, and similarly with social housing, which is much more expensive to deliver. We're constantly hearing off the government that they've got more money for the affordable homes budget, which is not true. You know, the affordable homes budget is actually decreasing in terms of its current plans over the next 2 years. Now, we've got all eyes on the spending review, which will detail exactly how much money is made available for affordable homes. But on current trend rates, the numbers of affordable homes delivered by this government will drop compared to the numbers delivered by our government when in office.
The Prime Minister is expected today in a speech to urge the public to reject reforms, economic policies. I imagine you might agree with the gist of that, but is it a worrying state of where we are, that the Prime Minister is much more focused on reform than he is on the Conservatives?
The Prime Minister's got problems wherever he looks, I think, is the problem with us. And he'll see increasing problems from our party as we bring forward our policies, which will be much more coherent and much more workable in terms of taking our economy forward. But the public's lost interest in Labour. I mean, I don't think they were ever popular in the dispatch box. We were just unpopular, and we've got a big job to do on that particular score, but I believe we can do it. But also reform, you know, the red wall, as we call it. The working class voters completely lost faith in Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves and others, not least because of the disgraceful stripping away of the winter fuel allowance, which, as soon as it was announced in Parliament last year, I was one of many who said that's a U-turn coming, and that's what's happened. And once you've brought forward a policy like that, no U-turn will make any difference. It will make a short-term difference in terms of people getting the winter fuel allowance again, as they should, and they need to get it for this year. That's critical for this winter. But in terms of the broken promise around that, in terms of what it says about the Labour Party, the Labour Party will never recover from it. So, and the other danger the Prime Minister's got is from his own backbenchers, as hundreds of his own backbenchers are very dissatisfied in what he's doing right now. So I can understand he's trying to basically aim his fire all around him. It'll end up in a circular firing squad, I think, and it looks very bad for the Prime Minister right now.
If you're saying that the public have lost interest in Labour, how would you frame their view towards your party at the moment? You're behind Labour in every single poll, third in many, fourth in some.
Yes, we are. I understand why. That is a measure of where we've been, not where we're going. So we suffered a very serious defeat last July. We've got to hold our hands up. We can point to many successes over the last 14 years, but we made some mistakes. And fundamentally, the currency of politics is trust, and we lost the trust of British people, and that's the reality. That's where we are today. Now, we elected a new leader, Kemi Badenoch, who I think is an inspirational figure, strong, courageous, and a proper Conservative. And she set her stall out. She didn't want to rush policies out that were undeliverable. She wanted to take her time, develop policies that people could trust, that we would deliver, and that were deliverable. And that takes time. And that's her courage coming through, because that's a difficult path to take, because everybody's clamoring for those policies. And whilst you don't have them, it's more difficult to clearly get your message through. But those policies will come in due course in the coming months, and people will realise that these are proper Conservative policies that are deliverable, which I think the majority of the country want. And if people want an indication of the kind of policies that will come forward, just look at the deportation bill. I mean, this goes further than many other parties on immigration. There'll be a cap on numbers, but crucially, we'll disapply the European Convention on human rights law to immigration cases, so we can deport those people that our courts prevent us from deporting right now on spurious grounds. It means we can deport every single foreign national offender. It will mean that it takes 15 years for somebody to apply for citizenship for this country, rather than the current 6 years. So these are really strong policies that are crucially deliverable. And over time, people come to recognise that Kemi Badenoch is the right person to lead this country.
Kevin Hollinrake, thanks for joining us. Good to see you this morning.
Thank you. My pleasure.